battle for Bu Dop is supposed to be an all-Vietnamese operation, but it's becoming more Americanized every day. American helicopters and fighter planes raking the North Vietnamese positions that surround the Special Forces camp. And an all-American fire base known as Jerri. The 1st Air Cavalry Division reoccupied this abandoned fire base only 5 days ago. And now, like Bu Dop, Jerri is surrounded and under siege. Now these Americans are racing against time to build new bunkers before enemy artillery zeroes in on Jerri. For some, the race has already been lost. 5 GIs have been killed and 11 wounded here at Jerri today alone. Moving around is done at one's own risk. The operational commander, Lt.Col Ronald Rasmussen, took the same risk when he paused for a moment to answer a question.
Colonel, what do you think the enemy's intentions are for the Bu Dop area as a result of the last week's action?
Well, I think he has 2 things in mind. First of all, he'd like to upset the pacification program here in this particular district. And secondly, if the opportunity presents itself, he'd like to overrun the district headquarters.
Do you think the new pressure here...
Keep rolling.
This is exactly the way it's been at Firebase Jerri for the last 24 hours. You never know when that terrible, frightening word, incoming,
right over there, on the hill,
is going to start.
He's on the hill.
And there it is.
This time, the enemy gunners were off their mark, and the shells exploded in a momentarily deserted section of the base. Jerri's defenders retaliated by firing their howitzers point-blank into the enemy positions only 30 yards beyond the perimeter. CBS cameraman Pham Boi Hoan and soundman Pham Tan Zan repeatedly exposed themselves to enemy fire to film these scenes. A reconnaissance platoon was sent out to find the enemy mortar and ran right into a big enemy bunker. Outmanned and outgunned, the Americans beat a hasty retreat to the relative safety of the barbed wire perimeter, firing back from behind the trenches, World War I style. Helicopter gunships moved in to block at the enemy bunkers, striking so close that shrapnel fragments whistled over Jerri's own sandbags. Firebase Jerri was reopened to give the South Vietnamese some help, but Jerri's defenders are now spending most of their time defending themselves. And there's a growing suspicion here that it is the Americans, not the South Vietnamese troops, who are the real enemy targets. Most of the Americans at Jerri are newcomers to combat. It's taken only 5 days here to make them veterans.
So that's the way it goes at Firebase Jerri, the newest North Vietnamese target. A few minutes of hard work and a few minutes of hell and fear. You may get used to it, but you never get over it. Richard Lt.Col, CBS News, Firebase Jerri, South Vietnam.
If you're going to talk about what the war is doing to Mother Nature in South Vietnam, you might as well start right here. Freedom Street, the 5th Avenue of downtown Saigon. The French built Freedom Street into a lovely tree-lined boulevard. Now, the Vietnamese are using American chemicals to poison these trees to widen the boulevard to make room for all those big American cars and trucks. As graphic an example of defoliation as you'll find anywhere.
Just outside Saigon, the earth is pockmarked with thousands upon thousands of water-filled bomb and shell craters. Air Force B-52s drop 1.5 billion pounds of bombs on South Vietnam every year, destroying enemy troops and supplies, to be sure, but also destroying hundreds of square miles of potential farmland. Over the years, the Americans have been battling the land here almost as fiercely as they've been battling the communists, and the scars are all too evident. In a country that once was always green, whole provinces have turned an ugly brown, dead and dying vegetation as far as the eye can see. Along the Cambodian border, armed bulldozers are pushing down whole forests of trees and jungle, the favorite infiltration routes and hiding places for North Vietnamese troops. This Operation Rome Plow, as it's called, has made the beleaguered cities west of Saigon safer places to live. But in doing so, it has turned vast sections of 3 Corps into a virtual wasteland without plant or animal life. The American command claims this plowing is a real boon to the local woodcutting industry, but in fact, most of the downed trees are so full of shrapnel, they will break the strongest saw. By far the biggest, most dangerous, and most criticized aspect of this war on the jungle is Operation Ranch Hand, aerial defoliation. Squadrons of C-123 cargo planes cruise 100 feet over the treetops, spraying out tons of chemical herbicides on the jungle below. Since 1962, ranch hand planes have sprayed more than 5 million acres of South Vietnam. There are chemicals to kill jungle and chemicals to kill